Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be looking over at career for the last week of season 9, and hopefully this will give you a few ideas of what to try in your ranked games to get that final rank you're pushing for. So first up, we have a little bit of an off-meta one, which is Maokai at support. So he was buffed recently, Maokai as a champion. He's good top lane as well, we've kind of already mentioned that, but he's actually doing much better as a support now. So it's sort of like another Leona. You've got 3 direct crowd control spells, 4 I guess if you count the slow from your E, but you have your Q knock up, your W root, and your ultimate root. You're very tanky with Aftershock. Good old Aftershock, and make sure that you don't die when you actually dive into a fight, especially as a support where you don't have the same level of items, but you also have your heal from your passive. It's not just about being a tank though, you've actually got good damage still. It's a bit like if Nautilus and Leona are having a baby, like they kind of meet in the middle, and then that's where Maokai is. You actually have an even better team fight. So you don't win a ton of early games, at least in career anyway, but you're going to be doing okay in the lane phase and then really well in your team fight where you have all your big spells online. The best phase for you is after 20 minutes really. Around like that time, you're going to have big team fights. You're going to have like 2 to 3 items, or most people in the game will. Zeke's is pretty OP on him as well. So when you get that, it's a really big spike. Like with all the crowd control that you have to lock them in place in that circle, they will burn so much from your AD carry's damage. The good part about this as well is that you get all the benefit from normal Maokai. You have sick engage, you have good lockdown, counter engage as well, a really good front line, but with another top laner in the game as well, which is normally a carry. You're really good at diving in, but you're actually really good at peeling and like protecting people as well. Your kit can go both ways. Next up, we have Wieck jungle, who shut up this patch, are one of the best actually, especially against assassins and carry junglers, which are everywhere. One of his best matchups in career is against Kha'Zix, who we see all of the time, who's really strong right now anyway. Wieck is basically too tanky, and he still does some good damage. This all started because of a couple of buffs, so this was to his Q to start with, giving it 2% more rank 5, and also giving 20% more attack speed on his W rank 1. We used to max that W into Q, and one of the things I said at the time with this buff was that we're probably going to swap that, and now actually we do. We max our Q into W, which means we get maximum benefit from both of these buffs. That is kind of what made him go over the top basically, because we swapped the way we're playing him and using both of these buffs to full potential. He's like kind of a machine that just plows through everybody. Wieck has a decent early game because of his sustain, but you're also really looking for that 1 to 2 item point where you get tankier and you have your built-in damage from your kit. You last for so long in fights, like you have your tank stats, you have your heals, but you also have your damage reduction and the fear. That stuff will keep you alive for quite a long time, but you also deal some good damage. When you combine the two, that's the important part. Like they die before you do, and that is why it works. You're also pretty good engage. You have really good chase down potential, good dive potential even as well under tower, but it's really hard to fight Wieck 1v1 or even 2v2. One of the biggest things this patch was a shake up to AD carries, and now the best AD is Misfortune, and she actually is one of the most popular in career. I mentioned this build briefly a few videos ago, so you might kind of know the idea already, but every day more people play this, and weirdly actually the win rate keeps climbing every single day. I honestly feel like this is 100% your ticket to climb as an AD if you can somewhat play Misfortune already and you want to make an end of season rush. So this build is okay in lane phase, but unlike normal lethality Misfortune with Dustblade and stuff, that is not really what the build is about. Like you're not playing for lane. We're powering up for mid game now. We're going crit and we're going Kleptomancy, and both of those are going to power up mid game more. Klepto makes lane a little bit weaker because you don't have any damage there, but you make your mid game stronger because you have some more gold. Crit is actually doing the same. It's weaker early in comparison to your Dustblade and stuff, but it's better from 2 items basically once you have that crit chance. Add 2 items, we have 50% crit, so it's a ton of AD from Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge as well. And not only does your Q bounce deal a ton of damage, but so does your love tap and even your ultimate. This build is really insane if you get to 2 items. Like that is really what you're aiming for. I guess like at that point in the game, you burst people down and you keep powering up for the rest of it as well. You're just a little bit weaker than normal before that. Realistically, most games end around 2 to 4 items, and that's really where the build is strongest. That is why it works as well, and why it's kind of like the highest win rate we have at the moment in the bot lane. The really crazy part about this though, and why I kind of want to mention it again, is because it's getting up to be as popular as Kai'Sa now. That is how strong this build actually is. Now time for something a little bit more off meta again. So if you take the last couple of days, Nocturne mid is more popular than jungle now and winning more, which is insane. The win rate keeps climbing up every single day as well, but basically he's one of the best early to mid game mid laners at the moment, even though that sounds really weird. He can ultimate to side lanes like a Twisted Fate, doing tons of damage, but it's very hard to stop and you can't even really counter it because of the vision denial. The other reason it works as well is because he beats most meta mid laners. He can either kill them, which is pretty easy against the mage, or he pushes and he roams. That is the easiest playstyle for solo queue, and that is the one that can really make you climb very quickly, which is what we need because we've only got a week left of the season. The build is Dustblade, it's Shojin and Guardian Angel normally, and that lets you dive in, burst, but like also pump out damage afterwards. So there's going to be more Q, more fears as well, plus it's really good cooldown reduction for a lower ultimate cooldown in general. It actually also makes you a little bit tanky, which is pretty nice. The idea is really to use this pick like a Talia or a Twisted Fate, right? You roam, and just roam some more, honestly. You contain the enemy mid laner under their tower by pushing, and then you move around. Most of you will know how strong jungle Nocturne is and how much of a pain in the ass it is. There's no real difference, and actually the only difference is that he's stronger because he has more gold and more items. I know it sounds very weird saying all this stuff for Nocturne mid, but this is actually becoming meta in Korea right now, and it's starting to get banned a lot every day, which shows people hate playing against it, and it's strong enough to be a problem. Next up, we've got a little bit of a sleeper pick here. So Teemo top lane is sort of half Korea, half us. The Korean side is that if you get out of lane phase, you have a stupidly high win rate on Teemo top now. Even at one item, you have a 55% chance to win the game, climbing up to over 60% if you can make it to 3 items. That sounds great, but the problem with that is in Korea, it's not that easy. It takes until about 20 minutes for him to win more than he loses, so he can get run over early game and just not really be able to recover. Now it sounds like it sucks, but in Europe and North America especially, our games are a little bit slower, so we stand more chance to get to that mid-game phase, which we really need to hit. At that point, you can litter the map with your shrooms, you can burn everybody down and do some serious damage. You also get relatively tanky with Grasp actually, which sounds kind of weird, but combine that with the Leandries, with the blind as well, it's not easy to kill Teemo anymore, and he actually does like a lot more damage than you think. The interesting thing as well with this build is the Luden's Third actually, which is super weird. Normally you want mana regen from an item like this with the chapter for the lane phase. It works with the level ups basically, right? So when you get it later into the game, you're not really getting level ups, so it doesn't really make any sense. Instead though, we buy it for the AP and for the extra damage on the shrooms that will proc, so we're not really getting it for the mana, just to make our shrooms even more annoying. The good thing as well about this is that at lower ranks, games go a lot longer, especially in Europe and North America, but Teemo is actually one of the best at that point. With the more items, the shroom hit harder, and that is why he can be so good late game. The blind is also more impactful. You can burst a lot harder, and you can cover objectives with traps, and he's going to get avoid stuff, so you can't even really buy any magic resist to help. The only way to counter is a sweeper. As we know, in solo queue, people don't really use their brains that much, so they won't be buying sweepers really. Even if they do, a couple of people will have them, and it's probably not going to be enough. And next one is actually pretty similar. Like, Kindred is insane if you can get to 2 items, especially if you can get to 3, but that's not very easy to do. It's okay if you have a good start or you work on your early game, but they also use a different build, which is kind of why she's in this video, or they're in this video. Normally when we see a Kindred, we see like a heavy attack speed build, an on-hit build, and they go into crit kind of for their late game. The thing that Korea does is go heavy AD, like absolutely no attack speed at all until way later into the game. It's going to be Warrior, Essence Reaver, and Infinity Edge. So you have triple AD items here as your first 3, and you rely on bursting people down with a 3-hit passive more than anything else. The playstyle here changes drastically, like it's so much different, and nobody is going to expect how much you can do and how hard you can burst. Your objective control, like going for dragons and stuff like that, that is going to be worse. That is the one downside to this, but actual fights will be stronger. Like, you'll be able to duel people much better, especially as well with Conqueror. It gives a lot more AD, it gives you healing and true damage. Press attack is a bit more common in Korea, but Conqueror is actually winning a bit more at the moment. If you enjoy scaling just a little bit, or you're like kind of struggling to make Kindred work at the moment, this should honestly really help. Like, this build is way better than the on-hit one, at least for now. On to our last one of our newer picks for this patch, which is going to be Olaf top lane. Olaf is actually one of the best jungle picks at the moment, with one of the best early game win rates, but I never like talking about him because he's so risky. Like, if you don't get ahead early as a jungler, like, you're pretty much over in the game. Top lane is a bit different, but it also takes this idea to another level, hovering between 60 and 55% win rate before 25 minutes into the game. What that actually means in game is that if you get an early lead, you should be expecting to become almost unstoppable, just running at everybody, and there's no real way to shut you down. The build is often centered around that idea as well. It's 1 damage item, your Black Cleaver, which even gives you health as well, and the rest are there to just keep you alive and get you into that fight. You're going to see a lot of people using their ultimate and then Righteous Glory together, which means nobody can run away from you, which when you're stronger and when you're Olaf is a pretty bad thing for your opponent. There is also the more Korean way of doing things, I guess, which is Death Stance and Trinity Force. These items make Olaf an absolute brute, but a bit of a more fragile one, I guess. Like, you don't have as many tank stats, but you deal a lot more damage. If you fancy gambling a little bit more, if you fancy playing with fire more, abusing lifesteal, and just trying to smash everybody before they smash you, that might be something more fun to try out. There are two picks that I really want to talk about here that are not new builds, so I left them right until the very end. First of all, Leona is now the best support in the game since the Nautilus nerfs. She just runs over everybody, she is too tanky, and she has way too much damage. Your engage is really good, obviously, and you can shut down AD carries without much trouble anymore, especially because Xayah and Kai'Sa are now not as good. These were the safe picks. These were the ones that could kind of actually deal with it a little bit and kite you around, but the AD carries that are left now and becoming popular, and supports actually as well, just aren't able to survive as easily. At the moment at least, she kind of has everything. She is the best support to climb with on this patch because she will win most lanes, transition into a really good roamer anyway and use her ultimate to get a lot of kills in other lanes, and then move into a really good team fight. The other one I really want to mention as well is Talon's getting played way more again, and Korea love him because he can push and roam, a lot like Nocturne. He is kind of a skill assassin, but he's a really good early game assassin, so some of the assassins actually scale really well. Talon is not really one of them. Yes, you can have a good team fight, but you're mainly playing for the early game. Nocturne is actually sort of replacing him a little bit at the moment, which I find kind of strange, but Talon is better early game than Nocturne. He doesn't have the same mid game impact, or he does, but it's not as easy. Nocturne can just press R, right? Talon kind of has to get in the right position, kind of flank, and then he can do a lot of AoE damage, which is really good rather than single target, but it's just not as easy to do it. He is harder to play, but he's still really effective. He smashes mages in this meta super hard. Like, he's able to get a lot of kills level 2, even like that early into the game, and then just snowball from it. So that is going to wrap up my look into Korea. Thank you guys very much for watching until the end of the video. Let me know if you have any of your picks down in the comment section below. Good luck with your climb. I wish you the best and hope you get that rank you're really aiming for. That's going to wrap it up for me. So thank you for watching. And for now, I will leave you with robots.